Hello, everyone. I'm Karmacut,
And I'm Moydog, and welcome to Command Comms.
the podcast where we talk about everything and anything related to tactical shooters.
All right. Well, nice little week off, I guess we can say.
Mm-hmm.
We're starting off with episode 12, which, if you're keeping up with our episodes, that would be what you thought it would have been last week. But I'm going to be honest, there's not a lot going on with tactical shooters or
Yeah,
squad or insurgency or any of the games that we normally talk about. It's kind of dry out there.
it's pretty slow. Everyone's kind of chugging along. I'm getting some. We can talk about this maybe a little bit as well. Just some weird vibes from I think all of the
Weird vibes.
studios. Yeah, I mean we're hitting a little bit of a rough patch. Just to mention, like I know Tarkov. There's been a lot of issues recently as well. Whether it be like a lot of the desync. Like I've been on the Reddit looking. There's a lot of desync issues. I know people have been losing their keys that they've put in their containers as they go into
Yep.
raids last week. Like I know Insurgency Sandstorm actually released a patch, which was pretty cool, but they had a little controversy relating to the skins that they were planning to release. Hell Let Loose has been quietly chugging along, right? Hell Let Loose is kind of going on in the background, but
Yeah.
Postscriptum's dead quiet. Squad's still trying to kick V2 out of the door.
Yep.
That's pretty much the state of things and how things have been for a little bit now. And there's nothing really newsworthy, I think, that we can touch on regarding any of those games, aside from maybe Sandstorm, which is a cool little update. Check it out if you can. Add a couple new guns.
Well, so out of all, I know we have some stuff that we do want to talk about today, but out of all of those ones, do you have one that you think is like, hey, this is actually exciting. I kind of want to play this one. These updates are keeping me interested, or you're just kind of like, I'll go play something completely different right now.
So I played the Sandstorm update just because I actually had no idea that there was a Sandstorm update. I was just gonna play Sandstorm to play Sandstorm, and there's an update the exact day I was gonna play. And
There you go.
yeah, that game is very interesting. I did a video on it, but it's mainly like every time I go back to that game, like it's one of those games where I look at all the independent features and functions of the game, and it's like oh my god, this is the makings of an amazing tactical shooter. But then I play the game modes, and it's just like stand in the circle cap, stand in the circle cap, stand in
Yeah.
the circle cap, and it's just meh. But like compared to Squad and Postscriptum and Hell Let Loose, like Sandstorm has you got tactical reloads, you got weapon customization, you've got AI for co-op versus AI,
Yep.
you've got off-map call-ins like the other games, you've got picture-in-picture scopes. You now have variable scopes, which means you can use a magnifier like in Tarkov and go one
Yep.
times to two times, and there's an animation for that. There's a whole bunch of you can pick stuff up off the ground. They have workable doors that you can blow up or shoot the hinges off or kick down. You look at all these features and you listen to them and you're like, God damn, those are some awesome features. You can even scavenge magazines of the same caliber of the weapon that you're using off weapons that have dropped from people that you've killed. You can like if someone has a C4 and they get killed and they drop the C4 on the ground, if you throw a grenade near that C4, it explodes. There's some
Hmm.
really cool stuff in that game, but like when they try to put it all together and when I play it after every update, because all the updates they're mainly just adding content. There's no real game changing
Yep.
things in those updates. It's like, well, it's nice shiny toys, and it kind of feels like where Squad is going, right? It's like Squad doesn't really plan on releasing any game changing mechanics or
Yeah.
systems, and that's my fear is that everything is kind of in this maintenance mode, or this is like just okay, we're ending our main development cycle, and we're just gonna pop out some cool content and maps and guns. And it's like I don't know. I think I like seeing metas change, and I like seeing evolving gameplay and styles continue to arise. Uh, but
Yeah, I mean, for Insurgency, I'm gonna be honest.
mhm,
Like when I like the original Insurgency, I played it quite a bit. The it when you're speaking of the game modes, even now, the when I actually had pre-ordered it, and if you pre-ordered it, you could have that early access beta access to play
mhm,
it when it first came out, and the game modes turned me off right away.
yeah,
And it's kind of disheartening to still see the same game modes, so far along. And we were just talking as we're trying to come up with our specific points here, but it's really interesting that our tactical shooters that we like to have communication, we like to have strategy, tactics, all these kind of a lot of moving parts, it all ends up to just be, hey, push all of your bodies onto this one objective area. There's never this really. hey, let's yeah, okay. Squad does have some like insurgency and destruction, but let's be real, those game modes are not really
Hmm.
finished. I guess
It's
is the nicest way to put it. There's no S&D. There's no
It's
S&D.
really,
I
yeah,
love
it's really
S&D.
weird. It's really weird because everyone is like using the next gen, right? From PR to squad, or
Yeah.
from whatever old World War II tactical shooter to Postscriptum or Hell Let Loose. Like everyone's innovating in certain areas. Like Sandstorm innovated a lot as far as like features and the visuals and the sounds. All of those things got upgraded, but no one innovates or improves the game mode. In fact,
Yeah.
they go backwards, right? I'm pretty sure Sandstorm lost a couple of their game modes, and Squad, right, lost
Yeah.
Insurgency. Like Insurgency used to be a core part of PR.
Hey, it's coming soon TM. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
V4, 5, 6,
We'll
2027. I don't
see if
know.
it gets delayed or axed or canceled or pushed back. But what, like, I'll believe it when I see it at this point.
Yeah.
But it's just so interesting, right? Like no one's really innovating on the game modes. All the game modes you look at: Postscriptum, Squad, Hell Let Loose, and Sandstorm. It's all capture the objective, move to the next one, capture the objective,
Yeah.
move to the next one. And it's just like, not only is that boring as hell because we've been doing it from other games like Domination or whatever, from whatever, it's just unimaginative. But
Yep.
now all of the current generation games are all running the same freaking game mode too. So it's like even when you jump from one game to another, and I guess there is like an advantage of that where like new players jump in and they kind of know what to do. But I think for me, I don't know if it's like it's something I get from playing a lot of board games or card games
Mhm.
or other games in general that aren't tactical shooters or shooters in general, where like a patch comes out or a new board game expansion comes out or something happens and it completely changes up some core features and functions of how the game to make them better. And
Yeah.
you just don't see that too much in patches with tactical shooters. I think that's a little. I think it's a lost opportunity there.
I do think though with it's interesting that you say it was tactical shooters. I think
Hmm.
generally that's the case. I do think Tarkov would be the one
Yes,
outlier because
Tarkov is the one
Nikita
outlier.
and BSG they don't even tell you the stuff they do. Like
Hmm.
all of a sudden people just all figure out that hey, I can't hold my rifle up as long as I thought I could, or hey, these bolt actions are now really hard to steady, or all of a sudden the GL that was just a huge pain when it came out is now just gone.
Hmm.
Like things like that really shake up the meta. And obviously you have different types of ammo types and armor and yada yada yada. But that's I think the one in this space that they're constantly just trying to play with the meta. I don't really know how like a squad could do that. Maybe you
I mean,
remove or tweak things.
there's
You can
so
always
much they
adjust
can do.
values.
The
You
just new
can
game modes. Just focus on like I don't think there's ever been a single patch, we talked about this before, where they focus on gameplay. Where they go
yeah.
in and they release a gameplay patch that's focused on not releasing new content, not releasing new flashy stuff, but focus on, all right, let's take a look at the problems in AES or Invasion and let's fix those. For example, right now fobs in Invasion, like you can't hardpoint. Just, oh god, it's just so weird to see like super fobbing in Invasion specifically, because in AAS it's not really a valid
Yeah, it's hard to do.
strategy. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's way too, I guess you could say, fragile of a strategy in AAS. And
Yeah.
it's so yeah, but in Invasion, like that's part of the fantasy, of playing Invasion, is you have a
Yeah.
massive
Yeah.
force attacking a massive defense. That's part of the fantasy. The thing is, when they introduced the artillery barrage and how overwhelming it was, you demolish that power fantasy. That's that power. That's why people play Invasion, I think, is to get that attack versus defender kind of feel. But when you are able to just immediately eradicate a whole like fob off the face of the earth in one
Mhm.
click, and commanders know that they just save it until they see a fob that they need deleted, and it's an instant delete button. I think it's like, I don't know. It was just, that's where I get concerned, where it's like they're adding this flashy artillery strike that in and of itself, like if you just dropped it, like not in a
Yeah.
game mode, you just dropped it in the middle of the field, then you watch it, you're like, God damn, that's actually amazing, right? It's awesome. It's immersive. There's so many shells, it's exploded. But you put it in the gameplay now, and then it causes some problems, right? And then even the usage of it, like how often they come up, like it's not like, I think Postscriptum did a good job with off-map artillery, where you have a limited amount of rounds for the match, and the commander can allocate them as needed, with less of a restriction on time,
Mhm.
and just it's more of a there's more thought gone into that, I think. Um, but yeah,
Well,
that's
I
just
think
one of the
when
things.
like when you get into that as we go into this type of discussion of meta, I mean, what I don't I can't speak for everyone. Like if you've played squad a lot, you try to do different things,
Hmm.
and the same repetitive AES invasion, RAS, TC, no matter what you play after so
It's
many
all
hours,
capturing a point.
yeah,
It's all
exactly.
standing in
So
a point. That's all it is. It's all standing in a point.
but with the artillery meta, because that is meta, or you get a cast strike to just knock something out. I do think we've all probably played around with your fob on a fob on a fob, so you line them all up and try to have backups and support. And I do think for invasion, you could probably tweak it a little bit better, so there's more of like a fob pre-built for some stuff. Like I don't know how
Hmm.
to actually do this, or but it kind of I totally agree that there needs to be some shakeup because having you're basically giving 49 other people the opportunity to screw up that invasion fantasy because you need to drive the all the way across the map. I've been in an Albazar invasions where we lose 3 lodges to the river, and then you just get up there and the next 55 minutes is just a pain in the ass because you're just scraping by. And it's
Right.
like all these types of things. It's like sandbox, but it's almost too too sandboxy. But I like the idea of it. But you're still just not giving, I think, enough gameplay opportunities to have fun. If things, if you're basing it on the competency of the person next to you. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes it's not good.
Yeah, it just feels like a lot of these game modes, like for all intents and purposes, they function, right? The game modes
Yeah.
function. You get the experience of an attack and defend. You're pushing through the map. They work. It's balanced to some degree. It's the most, but I think the part of me that is upset is that I know that we could get so much more out of game modes, because game modes are how the game is experienced, right?
Yeah.
If you push the limits, I 100% guarantee you could get an amazing, and like that's what we're trying to do with the occupation mod, is bring a
Mhm.
new, completely new game mode that has a developing meta that we can adjust with patches, balance patches, and we can actually bring that freshness, that replayability. And I think people crave that. I think people crave
Yeah.
that because you look at Tarkov. Like, I mean, Tarkov's gameplay and game modes are kind of like a battle royale, but not really. It was completely new, and it's a huge game. And I wonder if it's a
I think
huge game.
people called it a BR first because of that
Yeah, I mean, it
too.
was the easiest thing that you could kind of relate to in Tarkov, but even then, that's not exactly true, right? You don't have to kill everyone to win. You can get out.
Yep.
It's a completely different experience, and I think that's what this genre needs if it wants to continue improving, is innovation as far as the game modes. Because god, like if we look in 5 years and we're still playing stand in the circle simulator, I don't know, like if that's if having flashy new visual effects is going to be enough. Because Tarkov is a complex game. It's a hard game to understand. Even when I stream it and people pop in the chat, like I have no idea what's going on, but it's fascinating. I
Yeah.
think developers need to have a little bit more faith in their community, especially in something so hardcore, right? And as tactical, as in depth as like Milsim. I know these games aren't strictly Milsim, but they're more, platoon shooters where there's more
Mhm.
strategy and tactics and teamwork involved. But I think a little more faith needs to go into the community and giving the community the freedom when they play to make decisions that matter, or can shake things up. Because the more that this remains railroad styled game modes, like I don't know if that's necessarily good for this genre in the long run. And I think Tarkov kind of shows that you can really push the limits and still be successful and popular. You can.
Well, I think that's why going back into years and years ago, Project
Mhm,
Reality, if you ask any PR vet, their favorite mode on that is Insurgency
mhm,
because of how dynamic it is, because how non-objective based, even though you obviously have an objective, there's so many different factors in how you can play the game. You can try to get intel, you can try to capture people and get intel, you
mhm.
could kill people and get intel. You can go in all these different ways. You can have a mix of civilians and actual insurgents and things like that. and it's much more interesting and
Yeah.
entertaining. And that same game is not going to be the same one that you play tomorrow or a week from now because of how everybody interacts with the space. And that same with like customs or factory or interchange is different every time you play it because of how the people are moving around.
Hmm.
I do think there is a replayability aspect of Squad too, which I definitely like about Squad. But at the end of the day, you still have that one objective. You still got to treat that
Yeah.
one objective the same way for the
S-
most part.
yeah. So one thing that popped up into my head was that like in Tarkov, I know you really want to survive every single raid, but at the end of the day in Tarkov, you do have different and multiple win conditions, right? Whether that
Yeah,
condition is going in and getting a quest item and getting out, or going in and dropping your markers and not, maybe you don't care about getting in or getting out. Maybe it's making a
yeah,
lot of money. Maybe it's getting certain kills for your quests. Like there's different win conditions every time. For the most part, you go into Tarkov. Maybe you're just avoiding everything and you just need to like sneak around and you're just doing some things. Or maybe,
ratting.
yeah, some people set out challenges of like, I want to keep my survival rate as high as possible, and that's their objective.
Yeah,
But in squad, it's always like you hop in that game mode, there's one way you win. There's only one thing you can do. And that's like something we're trying to fix with occupation is like multiple different win conditions.
mm,
Just so that it remains dynamic. It remains dynamic. You can play it different every single time you hop in. Um, and I think giving players the choice to choose how they win a match, I think that's very powerful. Because like
yeah.
I'm gonna segue a little bit into like what I've been playing recently, and I think it's a game that you and everyone listening should check out. Is Door Kickers 2. Door Kickers 2 is an amazing tactical game. It's not a shooter, but it's definitely one of the games that I
Yeah.
started playing today, or not today, but like recently, and it was like this defines everything I love about tactical shooters except for the shooter aspect. Because you have that teamwork aspect. Of course, it's with your own guys in the unit, and it's like AI, or not AI, but like your player controlling them. But there's teamwork within them. You have the decision makings and the tactics and the strategy, the greater strategy of how you execute a map. But I think one of the glorious things about Door Kickers 2 is the dynamic aspect. When you look at a scenario in Door Kickers 2, which is essentially a room clearing
Mhm.
simulator. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's amazing. You can literally play every single map a different way. Whether you want to go in stealthy, you want to go in loud, you want to bust down the door, and I think just having that feeling of I have these many options in a game was very refreshing to me, because I'm so used to like in Insurgency Sandstorm, if I'm pushing a specific spot on the map, I know that there's going to be a guy in this corner and I have to do it this way, otherwise like I am not getting in the room. Or in squad, like, oh, the point is in I don't know what's an infamous spot, like blue green zone, right? Or whatever it is, and there's kind of a specific way for every invasion layer that you
Yep.
have to take every first
Always
cap.
have to do that same
Yeah,
thing.
you have to do it that one way. You pretty much have to. You can try other things, and they'll most likely not work. But it's just like remaining dynamic, and I think giving people choice of like how they want to defend, how they want to attack, I think it's important
Well,
in games like
so
these.
like Door Kickers 2, your objective is obviously at the end of it, however you get there, you clear the room or
Mm-hmm.
clear the area.
Mm-hmm.
And that is it's more of a top-down view of something like Ground Branch
Mm-hmm.
or maybe old SWAT or
Yeah,
stuff
no,
like
ground
that.
branch is
Rainbow
pretty.
Six.
Yeah, SWAT, old SWAT too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Mm-hmm.
like Ground Branch, as early access as it is, we've talked about it briefly in the past, but they give you the ability to approach that scenario however you want to do it. If you want to mix and match and you can have your team, someone, with a sniper, someone with a bunch of flashbangs, or hey, you just go full guns blazing, you can do it however you want.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to then when you're doing the top down, remove the FPS part, of it, give you the tools to compose your team however you want, play around. I've watched a ton of it. I haven't played Door Kickers 2 yet myself, but it is very it's I like, games that make you think like that. I also like kinda it's very strategy. I mean, you're pausing and you're trying to look at your specific angles and how someone can clear this with a certain weapon or grenade or a flash and cover the angle of someone else.
Mm-hmm.
It's very micromanagey in a way that doesn't seem overwhelming, but more like you just want to keep diving in and
It's
see what you
just
can do.
choices. Yeah, it's like the choices you're given so many choices and there's no one right answer. Whereas I feel like in other games it's like, oh god, it's either there's only one answer or I don't have the tools to create other answers, you know? That's something that I think in Squad they're trying to fix, right? They're trying to fix that with the layer voting and the map and the brigade voting because now you can play each
Yep.
map how your platoon wants to play it. And I think that's definitely a step in the right direction. I mean, it's been delayed, and I don't know if it's coming out. And I know they cut some parts of it to try to get the release out the door. And when it comes out, I'm sure it will be great, and I am going to use it as much as possible in modding. But it
Yeah, faction voting is confirmed not coming in V2.
yeah, and that sucks. And it's like,
I will say actually on that one, I will say I don't know if you had a chance to play the playtest, but the V2 playtest we played. I guess looking back on it, it was a broken layer, but it was a
mhm.
new map, Goose Bay, and it was we are the Canadians, and we had a logistics support group up against a Russian tank battalion. They had uh, 5 or 6 T-72s, a Spandrel, one Logi, and a transport. We had 3 Logis, a helicopter, and a transport. That's all. That was it for 45
Yeah, and that's
minutes,
interesting.
an hour. Yeah,
Hmm.
so you're able to play around with it. And it gave us just a little taste of what V2 or I guess now 3 or whenever it does come out can offer because I tell you what, have like our fobs instead of just dropping one toe, we could drop two. We could have 3 heavy machine gun bunkers. We could have 3
Yeah, and
mortars.
that's really cool stuff. I think that's really powerful stuff. But I'll believe it when it hits
Yeah, no,
live.
hey, I'm not defending it. I'm just saying I had that taste, and I tell
Hmm.
you what, it tasted so good, man.
Oh, I bet.
It
I bet.
tasted so good. I'm not holding my breath because they said mid-February, and we're about or early February. We're almost there. But
Hmm.
whenever that does come out, I do think it will help ease the frustration because a game like Door Kickers, you obviously have just choices everywhere. Tarkov, as you were just saying, you can choose every map. Although there's obviously going to be a quote unquote meta way to play a map, you could honestly do it however you want. And I've
Hmm.
seen many people be successful with different strategies from ratting, extract camping, chatting, every single weapon. You're going to be successful if you play it right. Squad, definitely super stale in that aspect. Fingers crossed for whenever that comes out. But I can't really speak for Postscriptum, Hell Let Loose, Insurgency, they're kind of just cookie cutter ish
Yeah.
at best.
So the exciting thing when we talk about Hell Let Loose and changing meta is that I think the exciting thing about Hell Let Loose is that they're in the development stage to where like they're still adding major systems that do change up the meta, right? Like the transports or whatever, like the construction system. They're adding
Building, yeah.
these. They're still getting the basics in, and that changes the meta there significantly, just because it's a whole bunch of new systems. Of course, we'll
Yeah.
see, right? Once they get the game fully fleshed out to like as far as the systems that they set out to that they've promised in the beginning,
Yeah.
and then see how much more they try to change the meta after that. But I mean, it's at a different stage. I don't really. I try not to judge like Hell Let Loose and Squad at the same because they're at different stages of development. The meta changes
Mm.
faster or slower in either because one's got features complete and the other's just still trying to get transports in or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
but I think it's oh god, like Tarkov is one of those games that I just look back and I'm like, Tarkov's such a great game if it didn't have the netcode or the other issues that it has that has been like prevented me from playing recently. Just because it's like same thing with door kickers. You're given all these options. You don't. There's no
Yeah.
defined way that you play it, and I do think there must be. There. I find it hard to believe that there's no way to achieve that in a platoon shooter, especially in one like insurg. We had insurgency. They just need like you focus on insurgency, you can get that experience. But
Yeah, no, it's the way to do that
mhm,
is through game modes and to
yeah,
create a dynamic game mode. And I you know what? I'm kind of in your camp on this one. I believe it when I see it. I see the potential. I think we all see the potential, but we're going on like 5 or 6 months of basically radio silence and no progression in this game, which is kind of unfortunate. but it's like I know it's there. I know it
Hmm.
can be there. If we had search and destroy in the original Call of Duty, I we can do that in, like, these games. There's no reason. I think most people, like, enjoy the idea of a breacher class
Hmm.
because you have to breach to get to something. In Squad, you
Yes.
ca what are you breaching for? What, to go around the thing that I can just bunny hop and that's not even the objective anyway? Like, it doesn't matter.
It's
Like
really strange, yeah, when you think about it, because you have games like the casual shooters that are coming up with like new crazy ways to play, and I think like those AAA titles are figuring out like, hey, people want to play different stuff rather than just TDM or
yeah,
domination all the time, right? That's like Valorant, or not Valorant, Overwatch, like the pushing the cart thing, that was like new, right? And
yeah.
that was a big thing. There's like there's so
Well,
much potential.
even you got, like, something as simple as, what, like, kill confirmed in Call of Duty?
Yeah.
That is more or less like, "Hey, you killed some baddies, go get their intel." Like, you can branch off so much off of things like that because it's no longer just a certain objective, you
Have you
know?
played? You've played Headquarters, right, in Call of Duty, right?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Imagine something like Headquarters in Squad, where I don't know if they and there are mods that have been like this in Arma 3. Like Arma 3 Wasteland had dynamic events happening around the map that you had to go through and get. But like, just imagine a game mode like this, where you have two teams set up on either side of the map. They have to set up their main base, and then after that, you have dynamic events happening around the map that your team has to go. Whether it's like
Dude,
secure this
screw
or
this.
blow
Let's
this
just
up.
do a headquarters game. Let's just do a mod, headquarters mod for
Yeah,
Squad.
and then
Screw it.
it's you can provide multiple different win conditions. Like maybe you win if you destroy the enemy's main base. Maybe if you win if you get X amount of points captured, or maybe the other way you win is just by out killing the enemy. And then you provide multiple different ways to play. The game is dynamic because you're getting different objectives and it's randomized. And one of the things I always thought about, which is kind of like a pipe dream, not pipe dream, but like I don't know if it'll ever be something that I actually develop to fruition, is changing it so that the commander, just like in Hell at least to a certain extent, can spawn in certain things depending on
Yeah.
points acquired. And that way you can really custom tailor every match and you're not reliant on like a set template that Squad gives you. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, we want this vehicle, we need this vehicle now, and we can pay for this, and this is how we get the points for it. And it's just making the game modes more complex. I
Well, Hell
don't
Let
think
Loose
there's a
also has
reason
that, so
to not do that. Hmm.
you capture zones to get fuel,
Hmm.
right? Or resources, manpower. So even things like that, you're adding. I'm going to be honest. Probably the vast majority of people who play don't really pay attention to that, but those who are playing and working for the manpower, the resources, they help their teams uh, very directly by then allowing them to have more tanks on the field or to have certain more call outs and things like that, like things that where you create dynamic environments and objectives and you give not just one main objective but these tertiary ones. So now the squad out in the middle of nowhere is actually doing something like securing a communications tower for X, Y, or Z or whatever. I
Hmm.
mean, that would be more interesting than just go capture this point again and again and again. I think it's very doable, but it's just
It
not
must
it.
be. It has to be doing. There's no way that this is like the final form of game modes for. I that's so depressing. If this is
Dude,
if this is the best we can do, we're in trouble.
yeah, I'm thinking like right now, what would be so hard of creating a game mode like headquarters in squad? Like you maybe different parts of the map, you build something, you capture something, you destroy something, you just stay there for an X amount of time.
Hmm.
Like normal. I mean, these are things that like it's very frustrating because the last game mode change to squad was random advanced secure, and then that was an iteration of AAS, and then they implemented a brand new thing, territory control. And territory control is like a glorified TDM. If we're being honest, they've tweaked it a little bit, so you can now play for sectors. I think a little bit better, but a lot of people just kind of roam around the map like a giant TDM,
Yeah.
and it's there's nothing there. I
It's
just
this thing where it's like everything is so minimum viable product. Like it's like it works. It works. That's it. We're done. Like it functions. That's it. There's no other like, okay, well, how can we make this mode better? How can we make it more complex? How can we? Because I feel like, and I feel like I get a big influence from like board games. I've been playing a lot of board games recently, just because like the tactical shit. Like I can't grind squad anymore. I don't want to grind Tarkov because it's until they fix the netcode again, and like getting killed or off a spawn is tilted the
What are you
ever
talking?
loving
We
crap
had
out of me.
such a good database. All right, you don't want to go back in
Oh
there.
god. Like I don't know. Door Kickers was so refreshing to me, but like even going back and playing the new Sandstorm update, what it feels like to me is like you have an amazing board game. I don't know if you're a big board gamer, but I'll use this dumb
Oh yeah.
analogy anyways. But like you have this amazing game with it's got an amazing board. All the components are like high quality components. But then when you play it, it's like there's no thought process that's like gone into like this is how you win or whatever. It's like just mindless. Not mindless. And maybe not everyone's like this, but I feel like we can get there's like certain really cool features in board games that where it's like combos or different strategies that you can use that I think could transition to game modes in this realm, this niche, and making things more in depth and having actual systems that work off of each other. And I don't know, I just crave more. I guess that's like to wrap it all up. Like I just crave I think my brain is just
Crave
craving
more.
more. It's just craving more. It's
Well,
it's
at the basic level, we even see Tarkov does this, not even just with the weapons and the playstyles, but you have Call of Duty has this, Battlefield had this to some extent with Evolution. You have ways to affect how the map or your environment plays,
mhm.
like turning on power and interchange.
Yeah, that's cool.
It creates a completely different dynamic, and people try to hit certain points. You now are kind of on a countdown of what you can and can't do. If you have, Siege of Shanghai in Battlefield 4, taking out that skyscraper, and then now that huge part of the map is no longer even really. It's not hard, or it's very easy to attack compared to going up and down the elevators. I mean, you have all these games that have ways to interact with the map, even on very simple ways, and it makes it just that little bit more interesting of the strategy behind. Hey, should I do this or should I not do this? Should I wait to do it? Whereas with Squad, the only real thing is maybe a command asset, but even then, it's still the same objective.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about it, like to be completely fair, these games do have like secondary features like the logistic systems behind everything, or how spawns work, or interacting with
Yep.
squad leaders to get air assets on target. But I don't know if it's just because I'm jaded or not jaded, but like burnt out, or I've been
You're
playing it too much. But it's like I crave more. I want to see something else. I don't know.
It's because there's nothing new. Like it's all these games, like Hell Let Loose. They really squared up against Postscriptum and knocked it out of the park.
Mhm.
But if we're being real, it's basically just kind of a tweaked Postscriptum. There's not that much different.
Mhm.
There's certain systems, and I'm sure the Hell Let Loose
There's
fanboys
a
are
lot
like,
of
"Oh my god,
aesthetic.
it's completely different."
There's a lot of
Yeah,
aesthetic changes. As far as gameplay changes, like if you go feature to feature against Hell Let Loose and Postscriptum, I think the main difference is the commander in Hell Let Loose is a little bit more of an active role, and you have, I guess you could say,
You got the
I'm trying to think.
customization, the levels a little bit, which just keeps some people invested.
Hmm.
But that's very a lot of people I think who play these games don't care too much, although it is nice to have. You can kind of flaunt it a little bit, but it's still basically the same thing. And invasion or offensive or whatever the two game modes they called it, you still had the both games had attack a certain area, blow something up, then keep moving. Like
Yeah.
it's the same thing. It's the same thing.
I think
Um,
I just like learning new ways to do things, and I think I've learned how to do everything for the most part in Squad and Postscriptum and Hell Let Loose. Like I've done
have you
almost all of
beaten
it.
Squad? Is that what you're trying to say? You
I don't know, maybe
100%
like
Squad?
I've done the mortars, I've done the fob stuff, I've done the vehicle stuff, I've done the commanding stuff, I've done the squad leader stuff. Uh, like it's I've done I think I'd like to say pretty much most of it, if not all of it, and it's
Yeah.
just I guess it's when you master something. Or not master. I shouldn't say master. There's no by no means am I saying like I'm like the best squad player, and I know I'm far from that. But when you understand everything, I
Yeah.
guess when you stop learning because
That
there's
I think that's a really good point
hmm
because I agree that at a certain point when it becomes no longer mentally engaging,
hmm
sometimes you just kind of say, "Okay, well, what else can I do?" And that's when we start branching out to things like, if you're totally engaged in door kickers, because there's so much of that game that you can change from. You just try to
yeah.
fix that one little part that screwed up last time. You could probably play the same map over and over again and still be entertained. Because when I play those types
Uh-huh.
of games, I try to 100% them and try to tweak every last bit.
Yeah, you will get sucked in then. So like yeah,
Yeah.
when I was playing Door Kickers too, like I was streaming for like hours, and like I couldn't like usually streaming is a little bit taxing for me, but like I was streaming, I was like holy crap, it's been like 5. I haven't had that in like Squad, Tarkov, Hell Let Loose,
That's
Postscriptum,
good.
any of
That's
those
good.
games. Yeah, in a long time where I'm like holy crap, the time just went by, and I'm like completely sucked in, and I'm like holy
Yeah.
crap, you can do this, and you're learning how to do certain things, and it's like oh my god, I can add this and that. It's like Tarkov is like okay, I know I can right click the weapon, I can put this gun on, and then I can use this optic with this ammo, and like it's like I kind of understand how it works, and I guess at that point, like my brain is just like it knows what to do, and it's just it kind of
Yeah.
feels like it's on autopilot. I still have to like practice mechanical skill, right, and like my aim and stuff like that. But as far as like decisions, I guess it boils down to the decisions in almost most, if not all scenarios in Squad, Hell Let Loose, Prescriptum, etc. My brain knows what the right answer is, and there's so few answers that it's just mentally not that engaging, right? When you're in a situation in Squad, I'm sure you see this all the time. When you're in a situation in Squad and you pull up the map and you look at the map and you're like, okay, I know exactly what needs to happen here, and this is like one of the only ways we're gonna
Yeah.
get past this point, and you're just running into the problem of like okay, well, I mean, we can't, maybe we try this but it's not really working, or maybe we try this and like it's definitely not going to work, but like that whole mental idea of like we need to do this to win, like we have to, and I'm looking at the maps like there's only one way, we have to take this point. Right? It's like we have to do this, we have to,
Yeah.
it's like I know the terrain here, the west is in the open, we have to come in from the north, and that's the only way we're like that's the only way, we're not going to get in from crossing that huge ass field on the east. It's completely in the open. There's like one way we have to hit this point specifically with already timed the right thing, and every time I play this map it's the same exact goddamn thing because there's no like there's no other tools I
You
have
need
available to me.
okay, all right. Here,
hmm
there are some times where I throw caution to the wind and I do the dumbest possible things in squad. And I
hmm
tell you what, half the time we all die. But the other half of the time you kind of feel like you're scratching the surface of a potential new meta.
mm
I'm not saying you actually always do, but every once in a while you figure out something and it's really engaging. I'm
hmm
not going to say that it has anywhere the same level of Tarkov or something like a Door Kickers.
hmm
We were speaking of board games. I really like the legacy type board
yeah
games
hmm
or the strategy type board games. Ironically, we've been playing Pandemic Legacy for like the
nice,
past
right,
few
yeah.
years. So and you can mix and match and you tweak how your character interacts with other characters and stuff like that. So I fully support that type of stuff, and I know Squad will probably never get to anything that even is related to that. But every once in a while, I feel like especially older players, in the sense that players that have played a lot, they they just keep thinking of the way it worked that one time. And as you have maybe more experienced players no longer there to support you, you see that hey, maybe my team's not as uh, maybe they're newer than they have been in the past, maybe they're not as good shots or good vehicles. You always default to that same old tried and true meta of hey, we need to go around this flank because it's covered. But trying to just honestly do crazy stuff is how I'm able to just have fun in squad with people and to stream it,
Hmm.
hours and hours and hours, because we get in some stupid stuffs. I've literally built uh, random stuff in the middle of a flat open desert and made it a new objective or a point. And normally you don't think that's going to work, but if you at least it's like I'm trying to give squad the variability it just is not
It
giving me.
deserves, right? Yeah, no,
Like,
I understand. No, I completely understand. You're trying to make it that game,
I'm
and so I
forcing
guess,
it. Oh man, am I
right?
forcing it?
I guess my approach is like I rather take that to modding than trying to
Yeah,
to
no,
like
I
force
fully
vanilla
understand. Fully
gameplay to
understand.
conform. It's just like it's just trying to force it to be variable. Yeah, I just have I guess it just gets really frustrating for me in like trying to do that in vanilla, and I think that boils down to the fact that like it's I feel
I think
very responsible like for everyone's experience,
yeah,
right? So it's like, and I
yeah.
know you feel this too, is like certain times, especially as commander, you're torn between two different sides. Side A is I know that there's a definitive way we can win this map. It's going to be the same exact time we play this every single time before, and it's
Yeah.
it's very predictable, but it's old reliable, right? But then you have the other side is like I could offer these guys a unique experience, and we can try to do something. We can try to do something crazy.
Go down in history.
But it's like you always got to pick because there's pros and cons to both, right? One works and you win. Because I will say this: I don't know if it's my ego or I don't know if I don't know if
The
it's just
truth
how I'm
comes out.
wired, right? But even in other games, like even in single player games, or not single player games, but co-op versus I games or whatever, I mean, I guess maybe necessarily it's not true, but I enjoy winning, right? Like I do enjoy winning. I don't enjoy winning at any
I
cost, but
okay,
losing is
okay.
not fun. I'll put it this way: losing is not fun. Not really. At least, see here. Oh, dude, I'm having like a weird moment right now because I remember there being a time before in squad where I used to lose and have fun, and I'm trying to think why has my stance changed? Like I'm really
Dude,
trying to think.
I'm telling you right now, it's because of the people that are most likely in your team or on the other team. There's some environment that creates the loss not being fun, because I totally get it. Because I can have a lot of fun. Okay, so perfect example. Normally, if I've had some very close games in the past. If I
Mm-hmm.
lose by like anywhere from single digit sucks, but single digit up to 99 tickets, that's usually a close game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's like a point or two. There was a game I was commander last week, and I was leaving my team the opportunity to use anti tank. And the entire time for 30 minutes, my brain melted as one BTR just ran circles around my entire team for 30 minutes, and we
Mm-hmm.
eventually lost by 12 tickets. So that was one where that was probably the most frustrating experience of my life. However, I've had those same moments where, hey, we do knock out that BTR. We're having like we get ourselves in some crazy situation where we try to do one last ditch effort and we lose a whole bunch of tickets, but we still have fun. And then we lose by 12 tickets. And it's like, hey, I had fun with my squad.
Mm-hmm.
Our team comms were pretty good. It seemed like everyone that was around me, although we lost, we did seem like we were actually working together. The tactics kind of worked. I didn't really have any issues, but when you start getting into the games where I've noticed a lot of people aren't uh, aren't familiar with the squad lead role or the vehicle role or the whatever role. I've seen a lot of games you have
Right.
no commander. Those games, and it's gotten progressively worse over the past probably 3 months, are the games where when you lose, it's like not fun anymore.
Yeah,
Last
so
year, I
I
had a
figured
lot of
out
fun.
I went through my head and I figured out why this is. So I think number one, it's because I'm an invasion player. I can't play AS. I just don't like it. So in invasion, you have to try hard the first couple of points, right? Because if you don't, the game ends on the first cap, and it wasn't a fun match. It's never a fun match
Yeah,
when
it ends in
when
what,
you're
10
just
minutes, right?
yeah. It's never a fun match when you don't play most of invasion. It's just not.
Yeah.
So you have to try hard those first couple. You have, and maybe this is where we go back to like flaws in game modes. That's a big problem in invasion. is you can't really go with emergent gameplay strategies in Invasion, because if you mess up the initial momentum, you're screwed. It's not like, oh, we can try something else now. It's like we lose that timing on that first push if we try to do something crazy, like try to rush a Logian, or we try to like
Yeah.
helicopter. You can't do that in Invasion, because if you try to go outside of the meta, you are punished, and then now you're stuck in this meat grinder for 25 30 minutes straight, where you're in the same spot just
Yeah.
getting farmed trying to get in the cap. So that's like it's all making sense. It all gets tied together. It's the game mode, it's the inability to try different strategies. Like, I don't know. I think
You need to play some more RAS, is what it's saying. I'm
I
not
don't
saying
like Raz.
AAS.
See,
I'm not. You can. I promise you, in most RAS layers, if you plop down a fob
see,
anywhere within the general area, you can create a point that has to be dealt with, and that creates fun opportunities.
I think the problem for me with Raz is, like, one of the things that I'm also a big fan of is systems or features within a game that don't feel like a game, right? So for example, in Invasion, I can kind of sink myself into the fantasy because we're all focusing on
Mhm.
trying to attack one spot. I think the issue I have with RAS or AAS as a game mode is that, from in a thematic point of view, like even with board games, like I'm big on like board games that are like really thematic, and it feels like every decision you make makes sense, and how the system and the game is made up makes sense. In RAS, it doesn't feel like there's a story. There's no theme. There's no nothing. It's like, go to this point because that's the game mode. You cap this, you go to the next game mode. There's no reason or like sense or greater story to why you're doing these things. Whereas in Invasion, it kind of feels like, okay, I'm invading the city. We're going in one direction. It makes sense. Whereas like RAS feels like a game tug of war, and it's like, I never got into Squad because it was like the mechanics of the game were fun. I got into Squad because it was immersive, and there was a teamwork, and it felt like more of a realistic game than Call of Duty and stuff like that in
Yeah.
many different things. So that's a main problem I have with RAS. Which is why, like in Occupation, we try to make sure that's like, well, why are you doing this? Like, what, like thematically, what's the point here? Like, are you trying to set up a base here and then defend it? Are you trying to patrol, and we give you the option to patrol and actually feels like a patrol, or etc. Like making sure things feel thematic. And in AAS, it's just not that. It feels like the game is forcing you to go to a point, and you're here because the game is telling you to be here. There's no other rhyme or reason as to why.
So Insurgency,
Hmm.
when it eventually or ever comes out, that thematically would be
Thematically,
Invasion free
yes.
to play.
I would play the hell out. So there's a lot of issues with Insurgency, like whether these issues have been fixed or not, because I know they had caches spawning in weird locations. They had not, you couldn't build within certain locations near caches.
Yeah.
Like it's just a hot mess. It's a hot mess right now. But like Insurgency, I have no problem with. It's a dynamic game mode. It plays different. It feels thematic. It makes sense, and it's just, there are core features within
Do
the
you
thing
not
that are
even
broken.
like territory control? Do you not like? I mean, that's kind of like. So I'm not saying all of them. There are certain like an Al Basra or Fallujah territory control. We're actually fighting, or Mutaha as well, where you're fighting kind of block by block. I mean, is that kind of also something?
It kind of, yeah. Fallujah, I will say, territory control specifically on urban maps feels much better than open maps, because
Yeah.
once again we get into that weird thing of like, okay, I have to stand in the open for some game reason, 30 seconds capturing this grid before I move on. Whereas like in Fallujah, it kind of feels like you're going block by block. It makes more sense thematically. That's why, like in Sandstorm, what we're trying to come up with a game mode in Sandstorm of like every building is a cap zone, and it only can be capped. So it's like Invasion, but cap zones in buildings. And so the idea is we're shifting the theme of like, instead of just the game mode in Sandstorm is just like every other game mode right now in tactical shooters, like get in the point and just sit there. It's now like you have freedom to choose which buildings you want to clear in what order, but the goal of the map is to clear all of the buildings, and that kind of makes sense thematically. Just like an Insurgency, you're going in, you're clearing all the buildings, because right now in Push, in Insurgency, the objective is in one building.
Yeah.
Doesn't fit. It's like you screw everything else on the map, everything in between you and the point, everything on the side or behind or above or below. Just get in the cap zone. It's like what the fuck is this? Like, I'm so tired of that. Like,
you have that one person who goes all the way around, doesn't see anybody, and
yeah, and then games it
and run all the way
Yeah.
back, and
yeah, and it's just like you can get that, like that change that we're making to the game mode is a very simple change that gives it a thematic feel that makes sense, that gives it that dynamic gameplay, because you have multiple buildings that you can choose to hit first. You don't have to defend all the build, like the way we have
Yeah.
it set up. It's like, I'm a big fan of that. So I'm going to try to continue in every game that I play that allows modding or whatever to try to get that, because I know it can be achieved. If board games can do it in a video game where we have control over almost everything, we must be able to create that experience. We must. Right.
It seems like it's impossible based on current game. I don't know why.
Oh boy.
I'm literally thinking about what you've done with occupation. Like we've started playing around with like escalation. Like even just the small tiny tweaks of things.
Mhm.
And it's actually so easy. I know they're working on something in all these studios. I know they're working on stuff. I don't know why
I think the focus
everyone
is
is.
in the wrong areas for a lot of studios right now. Like,
Dude, the shiny stuff, it's like it's cool, but if I still have to play the same thing with this shiny toy, it just feels like the same thing.
yeah. And I think, like I said before, I think a lot of these companies are okay currently for whatever reason, just pushing it out so that it works and then moving on with the next thing until I'm
It's
proven wrong. Because I've never, not for one single any of these games that have come out, aside from Tarkov, have I ever seen a gameplay overhaul, period. Or a game mode overhaul, period. Not for Sandstorm, not for Postscriptum, not for Squad, not for, I mean, Squad, like I'm trying to think of the biggest overhaul they ever did that was like I could
Yeah.
pat them on the back for. Territory control was pushed out minimum. That they didn't tweak it or anything after that. Done. Insurgency, they've left, and it's just this decrepit, like non-function. No one plays.
No, okay,
No one plays Insurgency.
destruction is worse.
Yeah.
I will say we've pushed Insurgency a couple times on our servers, and every once in a while, if you have the right people, like we wouldn't put it in a rotation, but I would swap it to an Insurgency if I know I had people on both sides. You can we can work around with the bugs, but it's like everybody for the past I don't know how long now, everybody's just conditioned on I go to point, I sit in point, I then leave point. It's like when you add just that other aspect of hey, you gotta find something. It's like people lose their mind. It's like they can't do it.
I mean, I can kind of understand the problem that they face, right? It's kind of like chicken and the egg in the fact that like you need a game community that is able to comprehend and play these harder game modes. But you're
Are
not
you
going
calling
to
the community stupid?
I'm
Is
not
that
going
what
to call
you're
them
saying?
stupid. I'm going to call them like locked into a particular way of game of playing.
It's because they don't teach people how to play the game.
Yeah, they're I guess you could say they're conditioned, right? All these players are conditioned to play a certain way. Of course, when you add a new game mode in, they're going to not understand it and it's going to be confusing to them, but you're not going to get a better community unless you start fostering that or encouraging that or pushing that. They're just going to get stuck in the same condition cycle of go to the point, sit in the point. So
Yeah.
like I'm fully, and I've had this discussion with like my mods or my admins on ops and stuff like that. Is like I'll tell my modding team or my admin team, hey guys, I want to push this rule that like if you claim a helicopter, you have to name your squad helicopter, right? And then you get claim over the vehicle or whatever. And like the initial pushback is like, no one's gonna understand that. It's gonna be hard for people to understand. People are just not gonna listen. It's not gonna be useful. It's like, well, yeah, sure. If we never push this rule, people will never learn. But guess what? We put the rule into effect. A couple months go by. It's fine, right? Everyone understands how to do it. Like people learn. Like I have faith that human beings can learn and can improve and can adapt. It's just like, for whatever reason, I think that gets in the way of a lot of progress or potential cool things that could be done in certain game modes or even certain games in general. Is that lack of faith or that lack of willing to teach a new style or something innovative. It's just people don't like change. People just don't like change.
Well, people see the content in the wrong areas, I think, especially when they're on the outside looking in, or maybe if they've only played a little bit. Like for a lot of people, when you are having fun in a game, you're playing with new stuff. And so, if you're all of a sudden playing with a Canadian faction, like, oh, that's cool. And then
Mhm.
Russia and then US and then British and then insurgents and we're like, oh, cool. Yeah, I want Marines. I want Germany. I want France. Like but we're playing, it's the same thing. It's like
Yeah, I don't know
it's
why people
literally
get
the
so
same
hyped
thing.
about. I've never been one of those people that's hyped about like new factions or new guns, like I've always been like, give me a new system. I don't care about
Yeah.
like I guess to me at the end of the day, I don't play these games to use all the cool toys. I play these games because it's mentally, the strategy and tactics of it are mentally more engaging than Call of Duty. But we're
Yeah.
getting to that point where we need to push it, I think, the next step. Or maybe we don't need to, honestly. Like maybe this is just my perception and I'm like I'm in the minority and I you
Bro,
know,
get
I'm
off
just
my
tired of
lawn.
it, right? But I feel like we could do much better. And so I don't know. That's something I've been looking at. That's something I was actually talking to Blue Drake 42 about Operation Harsh Doorstep. And
Yeah.
it's come a long way. I think there's going to be a lot of buzz around the game in the future. It's something I think you should definitely be a little hooked in on, because I think he's doing a lot to support content creators in that. Like you'll be able to completely. It's pretty exciting, and when we do that announcement, I think it'll be pretty big. But that's the one game I have faith in right now, because when I talk to him about it, he's ready to innovate and he's ready to push things and try new things. Whereas it looks
Yeah.
like all the shooters right now are like, we're done packing it up, new factions, new maps, and we're good.
I think like seeing the update on Steam and then seeing his YouTube videos, I think one thing about Operation Harsh Doorstep is that it's I have a sense it's going to be very successful, but in a very different way.
Yes. I mean, yeah, no, that's definitely, it doesn't, when you look at it, it looks like something made by the community. And at the end of the day, that's going to set it apart from like AAA shooters. But the power of that is that because it's made by the community has more say in how the game is made, or they have more
Yeah,
control,
exactly.
and they'll be able to do what they want to do with it, right? Like you won't you the idea is for him is like, it might not meet the aesthetic standards, and I already talked about how I don't really care that much about aesthetic
Yeah,
standards,
exactly.
but the systems that you want to see in the game, you'll be able to either see that in the main game, or he's like all about user generated content, be able to mod it and easily play it with others. And
Yeah, because I
that's
think I watched a whole. He has a bunch of videos where it's literally him just talking as he's, maybe there's some gameplay going on in the background about
mhm.
development and things they want to add and stuff like that. So it's actually funny now that I think of it. I'm like, dude, how have I been so hard on PR when I'm looking at Operation Harsh Doorstep. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't have to look like the best graphics. It's like I just need good systems. And like people love Project Reality not because it has good graphics, but because the systems are so good. But going back like that far, like mentally, my mind, I have this weird block where it's like I can't play it. Like I can't get it. I don't have the nostalgia factor.
Yeah,
But
no,
maybe
I agree with
it's
you. PR is too far back for, as if we talk about aesthetics, PR is too far back for me.
okay, okay. But it
I'm on the
also
same
might
page there.
it
Mhm,
also might be the fact that I know that that game came out so long ago.
mhm.
Whereas if Harsh Doorstep comes out, like the aesthetics might not be Call of Duty, but it's still new, you know?
Right,
And
there's
so
newer
it's like a
things. Yeah, I
mental
understand.
I don't know, you
It's
know what I mean?
the way I think of it, like is like Star Wars, right? So in if you try to show someone Star Wars now and they didn't watch it as a kid, and you try to show them the original 4, 5, 6, a lot of them
Yeah.
will just be like, "Ugh," right? But if you grew up with it, it's like you can go back and rewatch it and it's amazing. But you had to have grown up and had to have had that
Yeah.
nostalgia factor to go back to it, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like the Mandalorian, right, uses uses what do they call it? Where it's actual costumes and not CGI. I'm blanking here.
Actors.
No, not actors. It's
Yeah, it's like the World War II movies that
I forget what it's
actually
called.
use a Stuka or a tiger are so much better than those
Hmm.
that have CGI. Yeah, you actually they have the props
Yeah.
and they actually have that stuff.
It's like Mandalorian is like they use the old style of how they shot the old movies, but it's newer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't feel like you watch Mandalorian, right?
Uh,
Oh no.
I watched no my
Oh
okay,
no.
here's okay, no, real my wife, she has this thing. All right, no, okay. I didn't know we're going into this, but we're going into this. She has this thing. She doesn't like watching new freaking stuff. but she wants to watch, like, she's watched Friends. I think maybe 20, like, she can every episode she knows Friends, she's watched
Mm-hmm.
Gilmore Girls. She will watch the same shows over and over again. I wanna watch The Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't wanna watch, or she doesn't want me to watch The Mandalorian without her. She just does not wanna watch The Mandalorian. You know what I mean?
Okay, I get you. All right,
This is
so
what I'm talking
you're
about.
right. So what I mean about
But
the
I know
Mandalorian
what
is,
you
yeah, you know
mean.
what I mean. It's like they use like costumes, like actual. They don't CGI some of the characters. Like
Yeah.
they're actual costumes. So it looks like it's kind of like old style of shooting, but it's a newer version of it, and that's kind of what Operation Harsh Doorstep feels like. Operation Harsh Doorstep feels like the Mandalorian of tactical shooters. That's
Did you
literally
just
what it
say
feels
that?
like.
Is this That's what's good.
That's what it feels like to me. At least like, yeah, that's what it
Right.
feels like to me. I don't know.
If Blue Drake doesn't put that on, like, a quote or something like that and slap it
Hmm.
on the front of Operation Harsh Doorstep, then that's just a missed media opportunity.
But
Just
yeah.
put a
Oh
little
god.
Baby Yoda in front of it, and there you go. If you wonder
Yeah.
what Operation Harsh Doorstep is, there you go.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We're going all over the place with today's
I'm
analogies
actually
and
looking at our
metaphors.
our notes here. We didn't talk about, like, we
We talked about some of it, but yeah, no,
I
we
mean
didn't talk about anything we're supposed to. I mean, it's good,
Oh, that's
right?
fine.
We
It's
want to talk
whatever.
about this stuff.
It's the
Yeah.
whole point. That's really funny though.
Yeah.
Oh man. No, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's so funny when we look at all these other games that
Hmm.
have so many different ways to engage, and then we look at a game that I think we both agree on is arguably, like, more communicative, more teamwork based, more yada 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 yada, and it's so just not dynamic. It's just
Yeah.
so straightforward over and
It's
over again.
But like at the like I know we disclaim this at the end of like 99% of all of our podcasts now. It's not that these games are bad. I just know that they could be doing so much better. That's it. I know that there's more to this. I know there has to be. There has to be more to this. There has to be a better way of doing all of this. It's
Oh
just
yeah, after
yeah.
collective what? We probably both have
Yeah.
6,000 hours or something stupid combined on those
Yeah,
these, like,
yeah.
squad. After that, you're kind of like, I can see the foundation of so much more, and that's what's, I think we've said it plenty of times. That's what gets a little frustrating when you
Mhm.
feel like dev teams, whether it's squad or whether it's Hell Let Loose, Postscriptum, whatever, they seem to be focused on one thing, and you're like, dude, I'm telling you, don't not please just fix something else.
Yeah,
Just
I think
do something else.
it's definitely also I think it's compounded by the fact that there are so few of these kind of games. So each
Yeah.
one carries a lot of they don't really carry a lot of weight, but they kind of carry a lot of weight, you know what I mean? It's not like they
No,
feel
people
that
get
pressure.
invested because you only
Yeah.
have a couple.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's a small community. It's not like we're gonna get Squad 2 next year, like in a refresh of the series, and we'll see like an improvement. Who knows what happens? Like it could very well be that these are the last tactical shooters for a long time. I mean, aside from Operation Harsh Doorstep, which is going to be like coming out soon, like
Yeah.
this for all intents and purposes could be it for a very long time, and it's I guess it makes me worry, I guess, because I like these games. I like playing these kind of games. I want to see more of these kind of games. I want to keep playing them. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's just like we don't know exactly what the future holds, and if things continue on the current trend that they're going now, the genre is in trouble to a degree, right? Because we have more games that are just holding and are in maintenance than are being creative and are pushing limits.
Yeah. No, exactly. It's it's very frustrating, especially as someone, we're both invested in terms of content creation and just having, I mean, even on my off time, I'm still playing these games.
Mm.
Sometimes I play other things, but I mean,
See,
it's
that's a big change for me that happened like I think maybe last year is I stopped playing these games in my free time. I don't play Tarkov, Squad, Postscriptum, Hellies, or any of these games unless like I feel like I want to get because I can enjoy it for that limited time that I'm getting the video, but after that I can't. Like I don't know.
I had okay, this is a little bit of, I guess, yeah, how the sausage is made or whatever, but
Hmm.
if I am always I've gone on specifically, whether it's Squad or Tarkov or whatever, mainly squad. I made sure there was no recording. I made sure there's nothing. I just, you know what? Let's just play a game of squad. Just
Hmm.
have some fun. Just don't, maybe not squad leading. Just kind of chilling. Like that kind of stuff. It helps me kind of reset and just kind of clear my head and just be like, all right, I can have fun with this. It doesn't have to always be go go go. I don't have to make a clippable
That's
moment.
good.
I don't have
That's
to.
that's that's good that you can do that because I'll like for me, I think uh I don't know. It's just like it's a combination of also people like getting to that point where people recognize me. Where I've changed my name before to just play, and it's like I can't get away from that. Like it's a little annoying, and it just comes with the growth, and it's fun and it's awesome. I'm happy that it happens to a certain degree, but I can't enjoy these games like just for fun anymore because I'll get recognized and then just stupid shit happens, and it's just like it gets weird sometimes, and people always type in the chat, and then it gets weird, and then it's just like I'm that's where Door Kickers 2 was like really refreshing as well. Is like Door Kickers 2 was also a game that like I enjoyed playing on stream so much that I started playing it off stream. That's one of those games where I was like, I
Oh,
finished
good.
streaming and I was like, I have to play this more. And I was like,
Yeah.
I want that feeling back in a tactical shooter.
Yeah. It's,
Hmm.
I think you're gonna have to wait.
Yeah, I think.
I'm gonna be
Yeah,
honest.
no,
I think you're gonna have
yeah,
to wait
you're gonna have to
a little
wait.
bit for it. Oh man.
Yeah, but
Well, I wish it feels like we ended on a really sad note, actually.
um,
But I'm
I
really
it's
excited
bittersweet, right?
on everything that is
Yeah.
or is not coming over the next 4 months, 5 months, 6 months.
It's very much bittersweet, I think, because I think I'm reaching that point, and it's funny because I talked to Blue about this a little bit. Is like you reach a certain point in this quote unquote career, I think, where I'm following his path to some degree. Where he was a content creator, he played these games, and then he got tired of these games not being how he liked them, and he started developing. And I feel like I'm
Oh,
starting to
Karma Dev
go
Studios,
well,
huh?
yeah, even if it's just the modding, right? Even if it's just the modding, like
Yeah.
I'm starting to see the appeal of why he went that route, of
Yeah,
why he
definitely.
decided to try to make a game on his own. Because like you do this for so long, you get so invested in these games in this niche and this genre, you want it to continue, and you start
Yeah.
realizing that in order for it to continue in your vision, sometimes you gotta pick up that hammer, you gotta pick up that shovel and do the work yourself. And so
Yeah.
that's where I think the sweet part of it is I know that like I'm not the kind of person that I'm just gonna whine and not do anything about it. Like I'm gonna mod it as much as I can. I'm going to try my hardest to get that experience for myself and those who are looking for that experience. And so that's where I get a little excited about the features because like if the game studios don't do it, I know I'm going to try to do it. So
Yeah.
that's where the sweetness is. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens in 2021. I hope the year overall is much better than last year and just across the board. But as we always
We were
say,
trying to say like it's like we hope what 2021 is going to be good. It's almost mid-February, it's almost March. I feel like
mm,
nothing has happened.
I mean, you would be correct. Nothing has happened.
I mean,
uh,
maybe that's a better thing than last year, I guess, when
yeah,
we take
yeah.
in the
I
whole
mean,
grand scale of things, but like,
yeah,
oh man.
yeah.
Oh god.
I'm hopeful. I'm going to remain hopeful, and as we always disclaim, it's not as bad as we make it out to seem. We're just extremely
Yes.
passionate, and
Yeah.
so we always want the best out of everything, which is I think it's healthy that there are some people who are always pushing because you never want to get complacent, especially with these with what we do and with the games that we play. I think
Yeah.
and across the board, complacency usually kills things. So I think having the dev studios kind of feel like a little fire lit under their ass is good for everyone, right? It's good for everyone
Yeah.
because yeah, hopefully they either perform or the competitor arises and fills the demand.
Definitely.
Hmm.
Agreed. Well, that I think well, I'm looking at our notes. We got more for next week because we
Yeah.
touched on maybe 1 out of 10 things here.
Yeah, we'll talk about the features that set tactical shooters apart and we'll go into depth on those and what makes those features so great, how different games do them, if we have a preference for them, and all that stuff. Because I think that's something that even when we sat down to try to brainstorm the topics for today, like I was like, well, what actually makes this game a tactical shooter, and what appeals to me from this feature set? But yeah, that'll be an interesting discussion next week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I've really enjoyed our discussion today.
Mm-hmm.
It turned into something that I think was really interesting to talk about. But with a lot of these mechanics, and we mentioned in our pre notes, like the fear for your life is one thing that you don't really get in something like a Call of Duty. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm really looking forward to really digging into these topics for next week. I think y'all will enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Should be a good time. Should be a good time. But yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. As always, you know where to find us: YouTube, Spotify. We're gonna be back grinding on these episodes here, and the face cam is here to stay, so that'll be fun. Yeah, and I had a good time as always, Moy. Thank you so much for helping me out with this. It's always we always get some interesting topics and always have a good time. So I'm very happy about that.
Hey, we're here to please.
Yeah,
If the devs are gonna sleep, then we'll be awake.
yeah, yeah. Until next time, guys. Take it easy, be safe, and good hunting.
Peace.